Okay, the meeting is now live. Councillor Wilson.
Right, thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to our meeting of the budget scrutiny today. And I'd like to ask for if we've got any apologies for absence, please. Oh, I've missed that one bit, haven't I? I've not said, this is a public meeting being streamed live to YouTube and via the council's website. If for any reason the public can no longer hear or see the meeting over the live stream, we will adjourn the meeting until the connection has been re-established. This meeting is also being recorded. Can the facilitator confirm who is in remote attendance at this meeting?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So along with yourself, Councillor Wilson, we also have Councillor Jane Bryson, Councillor Dexter Bullock, Councillor Tracy Cannon, Councillor Jim Clifton, Councillor Tricia Clough, Councillor David Downs, Councillor Andrew Josbury, Councillor Tom Kirkham, Councillor Tom Munro, Councillor Yvonne Parkin, and Councillor Graham Parkin. There's quite a few of us this morning. I won't go through individual introductions. We also have some officers in the meeting. So we have the Scrutiny Elections Officer, Joanne Wilson, Tom Scott, the Governance Officer who's clerking the meeting today, and myself, I'm the Senior Governance Officer, I'm facilitating the meeting. In the chamber, there's Teresa Fletcher is the Head of Finance. Sorry, we also have Councillor Clive Mosby, who's the portfolio holder for Finance and Resources.
Thank you. Could I ask the Vice Chair, Councillor Bowler, to confirm the members present in the chamber, please?
Yes, Chair, we have Councillor Rita Turner, Councillor Paul Cooper, Councillor Ray Heffer, Councillor Derek Adams, Councillor Natalie Hoy, Councillor Maxine Dixon, and Councillor David Dixon.
Thank you. I will now ask the facilitator to explain some of the procedures for the meeting.
Thank you, Chair. Before we start the meeting, members are reminded of the meeting etiquette that's been circulated to them. All members should have their microphone off during the meeting unless you wish to speak and you've been called on. Members attending remotely, please leave your cameras on during the meeting. Also, for remote members to request to speak, please raise your hand on camera, or you can use the chat function to type speak. The chair will then call on you to speak during the discussion and debate. When a vote is taken, this will be by a show of hands. For those attending remotely, please make sure your hand is visible on screen clearly for us. If a member is disconnected from the meeting, please try to rejoin as quickly as possible. If you have any technical difficulties, please contact one of the support officers assigned to this meeting in the email sent to you this morning. If you were about to speak, the meeting will wait a few moments for you to rejoin. Just to advise members as well, there is a very minor change to the order of the agenda. The minutes will be considered after the declarations of interest at item 4, and the remainder will continue as it is listed on the agenda. Thank you, Chair. I will hand back to you to start the agenda.
Right, thank you. I'd like to ask for apologies, please. Could the clerk confirm if we have received any apologies for today?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I've received apologies from councillors Janet Tate, Alan Bailey, Anne Clark, Chris Kane, James Watson, Peter Roberts, Dan Salt, and Ross Walker. And Ross Walker asked me to know that it was because of work commitments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do members have any other apologies to note? Tom, can I ask you?
No, there's no other hands raised remotely, Chair.
Right, thank you. Item 2 is urgent items. I have not been advised of any urgent items for today's meeting. Has the clerk got anything to add to that? Nobody else?
No, Chair, there's no urgent items today.
Thank you. Item 3, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest members would like to make? Could I ask the facilitator to confirm any members wishing to speak?
Chair, there are no hands raised to make any declarations this morning.
Thank you. Councillor Bowler, are there any declarations in the chamber, please?
There's no declarations from the chamber.
Thank you. If there are no declarations, Tom will confirm they have been noted.
Yep, that's noted, Chair.
Thank you. Item 4 is the minutes. Within the agenda pack, starting on page 4, we have the minutes from the January the 20th meeting in 2020 for approval. I'd like to move these as a true and accurate record of the meeting. Could I have a seconder, please?
I've got seconder from Councillor Natalie Hoy.
Thank you for that. Could the facilitator, oh no, first of all, we've got to take a vote on this, please. Could the facilitator then confirm who is in favour remotely? Can we have a show of hands, please?
Thank you. Yeah, that's everyone remotely, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Bowler, confirm
Show
who
of
is
hands,
in
please,
favour.
if you accept the That's everybody in the chamber, Chair.
Thank you. So that's confirmed and sorted there. If there are any queries over accuracy, these can be raised and addressed as normal. Refer to Tom to note amendments if required. Right, item 5, budget monitoring report quarter 1, June 2020. We now move on the budget monitoring report for the quarter 2020-21, covering April to June. This is found on page 10 of the agenda pack. We have the head of finance and resources and section 151 officer present, alongside the portfolio holder for finance. Could I ask the chief officer to brief members on the report, please? Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you, Chair. Rather than go through the report that you've already seen, I thought I'd answer any questions you've got on it and then give you the latest on how our finances have been affected by the coronavirus pandemic, if that's all right with everyone. So has anybody got any questions on the report?
Has anybody got any questions in the chamber? There are no questions from the chamber.
Has anybody on live stream got anything they would like to ask?
There are no hands raised at the moment, Chair.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm providing information all the time to government. Each week I provide an update on the amount of grants we've paid, the number of grants, both discretionary NNDR grants and ordinary business grants for small business. That's weekly. We're also letting them know the reliefs that we've allocated to businesses, because they've given us quite a lot of relief for business rate payers. On a monthly basis, I'm completing a return on expenditure and income losses, where I have to give reserve levels, the reliefs we've provided to our council taxpayers, levels of cash that were being paid from business rates and council taxpayers. And also monthly, we have to do a return on the grants that we've paid out, on the assurance checks, to make sure there's no, not that there's no fraud, but there's as little fraud as possible, because the government asked us to pay them out very quickly in the first stages. And we're now doing, although we did some check-in, we're doing the major part of the check-in now. The expenditure and income return, I'm just finishing off this month. And the latest figures are expenditure from the start of the pandemic, which was really the last week in March, to now are approximately £200,000 extra than we had in the budget. And that's been spent on things such as IT equipment, you know, laptops, internet devices, also protective, I forgot what it's called, PPE, yes, equipment. A lot of it is on staff overtime, that we had to have staff in paying all the grants out in the early days. and other such things like that. The income lost, the main part of the irrecoverable income at the moment is on leisure, and at the 31st of July, it's approximately £390,000 that we're not likely to get back. The estimate, when we've looked at, obviously we're not going to get back to 100% use of the leisure facilities by the end of the year, so we've had to make an estimate, and the estimate for the year is £910,000 loss. I mean, it might come in less, it might come in a bit more, but that's the latest estimate. We've also got delays in income such as planning, land charges and MOTs. And for the 12 months of that, we're estimating £162,000 loss. Now, they might only be timing issues and we might eventually recover that money. So in total, at the minute, the estimate for lost income is just over £1 million. This doesn't include any allowances for such as trade waste invoices, commercial property rent, that kind of thing not being paid. We won't know about that until we know how businesses recover, if they recover. But at the moment for this, for the year, I've got an estimate of about £396,000 on that. So the total possible loss at the minute for the year is looking somewhere around 1.5 million. This does not include anything for council tax payers not paying or business rates not being paid. I'll talk about them in a minute. We've received, so far from government, we've received a grant just over £1 million. We've received 3 actually, but that's the total. This is towards expenditure that we've incurred and it can offset some of our losses. There's a further scheme that we're waiting information on where the government will compensate us for losses in income. It's for losses in income of our fees and charges, so it's what we budgeted for. It's not for council tax and the likes of that. It is for leisure, it's for planning, it's for those kind of things. What will happen with that, we think, is that the first 5% of any loss we will stand, leaving 95% of a loss, obviously. Then the government will stand 75% of that and we'll stand the other 25%. If I give you some numbers, it might make it a bit easier. If we had a budget, say, for £200,000 and we actually got income of £100,000, we would stand the first 5%, which would be £5,000, leaving 95,000 between us. The government would then cover 71,250 and we'd cover the 23,750. So we'd cover, if you added our two together, it would be about 29%. If I just look at the leisure loss and what we budgeted for leisure, it's looking like about, wrong page, no, that's right. We would probably pay 44,000, we probably have to stand 44,000, sorry, yeah, 44,000 with the 5%, 25% would be 211,000, so we would probably have to stand £255,000, and that would be covered by the grant that would have to be covered by the grant we've already received. If it wasn't covered by that, we'd have to use reserves, and the government would cover the £633,000 left. That's how the scheme is likely to work. As I've said, anything that's not covered by the grants we've received will have to be covered by our reserves or our balances. That's also part of the claim that I have to complete every month. In the next week, we're going to be starting our revised budgets process for 2021, and we'll bring those to you in November, and we'll include as up-to-date information as we can by then, the losses and the expenditure, etc., that have been caused by the pandemic. We'll also be updating the MTFP in the next few months, and I'll bring that to you in January. The changes for the pandemic and the MTFP, which obviously starts next year, are likely to be around the fair funding review and the business rates reform, which have both been postponed this year, understandably. We don't know if they'll manage to get that in ready for next year or whether it will be delayed even further. And also new homes bonus, that was due to end this year, and we don't know what the replacement's going to be. We don't know if they've got a replacement yet, but that also won't be ready to go into the budgets this year. The spending review for 2020, that'll be with us in the autumn time. We don't think that that'll take us back to austerity to cover the coronavirus, but that's what we're told, but we're unsure. The problem at the minute is there's a lot of uncertainty. Obviously, it's cost us a lot of money, the government that is, to cover the coronavirus, so it's just a lot of uncertainty really. So when we do the budgets, we'll be making lots of assumptions, I think, but we'll let you know what assumptions we've made that's about what all we're going to say. Has anybody got any questions?
Has anybody got any questions or comments to make?
Oh, Clive.
We've got
I'm not very
Councillor
big.
Mosby hiding behind the screen.
Yeah, I'm not very big, you see. I had to get some of these boxes under my legs in my chair, I think. You'll see me better. Thanks, Teresa, for that. I mean, it's like Latin jelly, I suppose, at the end of the day, you know, what we're talking about within it all. You know, we're losing money, but we're getting government grants, and then government grants are a bit delayed on saying how we can use them, what we can use them for, and all these sort of things. But I think that the saving grace is that we did come out of the end of last financial year pretty well. And we've got some good balances in place, both in general fund and various other places in it all, to try and, if you like, cushion any troughs and peaks that we might get. So any transitions we have, we're hopefully going to be able to keep them levelled out and keep it on a level playing field. And I mean, if you go back to this quarterly monitoring report, you know, we've got the new 3 directorates within there. A couple of them have turned out favourably, and one, you know, was showing a bit of a deficit on it. But overall, you know, we seem to be getting where we should be at the end of the day. Again, Teresa's mentioned the own bonus and business rates review. Business rate has always benefited us in the past because of the review would have given us a, if you like, a lower level from a start point, and that would have reduced the business rates. If that don't get done until next year, hopefully we'll pick up a bit more on that as well, providing we get the money in, obviously, you know, from businesses. Same say, it's good and bad news. We're watching it regularly. I see Teresa, and we have these meetings more or less weekly on stuff, and we've got one again next week. So we are monitoring it, we are watching it, and we will keep you informed as to where we're going on it all, you know, warts and all within it, because obviously we need to know, you know, where we are going and how we're driving it forward. But, you know, we'll stick at it and we'll keep going at it, and fingers crossed we'll, you know, with some schemes to transformation fund that went through again, executive this week, you know, hopefully we'll start drawing a bit of income in and getting a few, you know, bob back in that way, because obviously that's what the transformation fund's for. But, you know, all in all, we just watch this space really, and as Teresa says, we'll certainly keep bringing up-to-date reports back as we get to know when we can report something relatively positive towards you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Clive. Is there anybody else wishing to speak?
I've got Councillor Natalie Hoy.
Right.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
As your comments have just reflected, these are difficult times, but I just want to take a positive from this. This council has been absolutely fantastic and so swift in releasing these monies to businesses. I've contacted Teresa many times and Pam and the teams, and I just want to say thank you and well done, because it's very, very difficult times for businesses. And I have contacted her on many times. On one occasion, she had the monies released on the same day. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the chamber wanting to speak, or Teresa?
Sorry, I forgot to tell you about business rates and council tax. I'm having to report on council tax and business rates on the actual cash that we're receiving each month. And all we're doing is comparing what we received last year against what we're receiving this year. And we're having to provide that to government. So I've got the latest, we've taken the latest cash and we've looked at what it's likely to mean by the end of the year if it carries on as it is now. And the business rates at the moment, we're looking at 3.3 million that we will not, possibly won't receive by the end of this year, that we are due to receive. And for council tax, it's 1.7 million. As I say, that's compared to what we received so far to date, looking at what we might receive by year end. Of course, it might pick up, well, hopefully it will pick up. What the government have put in place is, we haven't got the full details of it yet, but they're doing something where they're allowing us to, this will create a deficit on the collection fund, and they're setting up a scheme where we will be able to put off this deficit for 3 years. So we'll just keep rolling it forward. So it won't be, hopefully it won't be a hit to us unless in 3 years' time nobody's paid, which hopefully won't be the case. So what we're hoping is it's just a timing issue. Obviously there'll be some businesses that probably won't be able to ever pay theirs, but you know, that will be a loss that the collection fund stands, and we'll share that with the government, with county, you know, as the collection fund is shared between everybody. So I just thought I'd let you know that as well.
Thank you. Are there any more questions for Teresa?
I've got Councillor David Dixon.
Thank you, Rose. Bring him in. Councillor Dixon?
Yes, Teresa, just wondering, has anybody looked ahead and thought what kind of impact it's going to have on business rates in terms of what you think we're going to lose over this 3-year period compared with, for instance, last year?
At the minute, it's really difficult to say because we've given everybody a business rates. No, we haven't given everybody. As people have phoned up and said they're having problems with deferred payments of business rates and council tax till the 1st of July. So this month has been the first real, and we're going to talk about that in the next report actually, but this month has been the first real month of recovery, and we've done soft recovery. We've been ringing people to say, do you need us to help you? Do you need any advice? Do you need us to set up a plan for you to make payments to us? The government's furlough scheme is still happening. So I don't think at the minute we know there's a real position on what businesses, whether they're going to survive or not. A lot of them, I suppose some could have gone already, but it's not a real position yet. So we don't yet know, because the government have given us almost 8 million in relief. That's what businesses have had in our area on business rates. Again, we don't know how many couldn't have paid if they'd had that relief. So at the minute, it's just too early to say.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I've now got Councillor Mosby.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll waive it. I think Teresa's gone through it. I think that the blessing is that we've got this 3-year bit within it all, and we can spread it forward. We don't have a hit in year one, shall we say, of 2 million quid that we've lost or whatever. And hopefully, as the economy does start to improve over these next 3 years, hopefully businesses will come in and will draw some of that back, some more rates within it all. But I take up on Natalie's point at all. I think it is important we do get these monies out to these businesses, because we do need them to survive. We do need that, the jobs, and we do need that wealth creation that brings. So, it's all part of that mix, isn't it? It's all part of the ingredients we need in the whole cake to deliver on stuff at the end of the day, because let's be honest, our bottom line is to deliver services to the people that we all represent out there. And if we don't get money, and we really can't do that at the end of the day. So, it's a balancing act, and probably finance is probably not the most enviable job to have on this council at this particular time, whether you're an officer or indeed a member at the end of the day. But it's a challenge, and it's a challenge that we have to rise to within it. And I think Bolsover, and I know I'm doing a bit of a selling act here, but I think Bolsover over the years has risen to what it's had to do at the end of the day, and then delivered on it all. So, I think we've got the right, mix of people and talent and everything. And I'm sure we'll come out, probably a few scars and bruises, but, hopefully on top end of it all at the end of the day. So, yeah. Again, thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Clive. Are there any
more comments or questions in the chamber? No, that's it, Jen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowler. Donna, are there any more online people wish to speak?
No hands raised at the moment, Chair.
Right. Thank you for that then. Where I've got Donna, done that. End of the debate. I would like to move that we note the recommendations at point 6 on page 16 of the agenda pack. Can I have a seconder, please?
I'll second it, Chair.
Thank you. All in favour? Can we have a show of hands in the chamber, please?
All in favour in the chamber.
Right, thank you. And could people online please show hands?
That's unanimous, Chair.
Right, thank you for that. And so that's that sort of. Teresa, thank you for your input and update with the good and the bad and the indifferent. And I know you will work extremely hard to bring us a good report, but you can only bring us what's given to, what's fed into the system. Thank you again. We now move to item 6, the annual corporate debate monitoring performance report, which starts on page 34.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. 1.2 of the report gives you the main sources of income for the general fund for Bolsover. That's business rates, council tax, dwelling rents, and dwelling rents for the housing revenue account. On table 1, this shows you the amounts billed for 1920. That's the income that we asked for compared to 1819 and 1920, and that shows that we've got 3.1 million more this year than we did last year. Table 2 shows the level of arrears for this income. So it shows that in 1920 we've got more arrears, 6.6 million, but we did have more income. That's on more income. And we've got 412,000. 412,000 is the variance, sorry, 412,000 variance. On table 3, this shows that the provisions that we've got, in case people don't pay the debt, we have to do this as part of year end. And in 1.12, it tells you that we've increased the provisions in 1920 in anticipation of the financial effect of the coronavirus on businesses and residents in our area. In table 4, it gives you a summary of all these previous tables, and it shows that for 1920, we had 3.1 million more income. The level of arrears at 31st of March were 412,000 higher, but we've also got arrears, provisions, 396,000 higher than last year. From the beginning of the pandemic, as I said previously, from the beginning of the pandemic to the 30th of June, we've suspended all recovery action on debts. So the figures reported for Q1, when you get the performance reports, will be below targets, I'm sure, on the indicators. We've been doing soft recovery from the 1st of July. As I say, we've rung people and tried to assist them, give them payment plans, etc., to try and help them repay. And I imagine it's going to take some time for our arrears to get back to the levels that they were before we had the pandemic. One of our advisors thinks that it might take perhaps 3 years to get council tax and business rates levels of income back to where they were before we had this. So we'll have to wait and see. And has anybody got any questions? That's all I was going to say.
Are there any questions or comments in the chamber, please? No comments or questions, Jen.
Right, thank you, Rose. Donna, have we any online questions from anybody?
No, Chair, there's no hands raised online.
Right. Well, Teresa, thank you for your report. And you've provided us with what you've got.
Can I just interrupt, Jen, please? Councillor Natalie Hoy would like to speak.
Right. Sorry, Natalie, please come in.
It's just a comment for anybody that's live streaming. You just made a mistake. You said 396,000 in the report. It's 369,000.
Oh, sorry.
I just want to clarify, just in case anyone's live streaming, if it's ever, brought up in the future. That's all. Sorry.
Thank you, Natalie.
Yes. Thank you, Natalie, for that, and also Teresa again. So at this point, we'll be moving on next, I believe, to item 7.
Can I disturb you again, please, Councillor Wilson?
Yes.
Councillor Mosby would like to speak.
It's fine. Yes, Councillor Mosby.
I know my pain, so
no, you're not, Clive.
I'll try and live up to that. I just want to say, I hope you've all read the Act 1920, but which we sort of sent out to you on an email. Just give a general overview of where we're sort of through last year within it all, and I think that sort of links into what we've been talking about this morning on Q1 stuff and that type of idea. So I urge you to read that if you haven't already, and it was out on an email a couple of 3 weeks back, I think, something like that. Okay, that's all I want to say, and thanks for letting us in. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Right.
Move the recommendation, Chair, on page 38.
Thank you. Councillor Effer, can I have a second?
I've got Councillor Hoy seconding.
Right, thank you. All in favour in the chamber, please? Show of hands.
All in favour in the chamber.
Thank you. All on remote, would you please show hands?
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much, all of you, for that. And is it now item 7? Anybody?
Yes, Chair.
Sorry, sorry, Joanne, item 7 starts on page 40.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
So members will obviously be aware, due to the change in the meeting schedule this year, we've lost a meeting in the scheme of things. We would normally have 4 meetings in the committee. We've only got 3 this year. If I could draw your attention to the work programme appendix, which starts on page 43. We are going to have our next meeting at the end of November. You'll get Q2 information at that point. You'll get the revised budgets, and we'll also look at the setting of council tax for next year, which will be 2021-22. We're also going to look to run a session around financial scrutiny. There's been some additional guidance that's recently come out, some joint guidance between SIPFA and Centre for Public Scrutiny. And we are going to be doing kind of a slight training session for members, and also sort of giving you some pointers on financial scrutiny and what the new guidance says. The final meeting for the committee will be in January. We're hoping to have Arlene Close join us for that meeting. They would normally come once a year just to talk about treasury management, etc., and how we're investing. You'll also have the proposed budget for the forthcoming year, and the usual revisions to the treasury management strategy, capital strategy, and corporate investment strategy. A final item, which we haven't actually programmed at this stage, but we're hoping to bring to you at some point, is also going to be around the funding that we give to the voluntary sector. So you'll be aware a number of grants go out through the partnership team. And that's something that hasn't necessarily come forward in any detail to committee recently. So we're hoping to develop some sort of report that will help to guide members on how that funding goes out, the outcomes that we get from that funding, etc. Are there any questions at all?
Rose, are there any questions in the chamber?
Is there any questions or comments? No, everyone's quiet.
Thank you. Donna, is anybody online wishing to speak?
No, again, Chair, there's no hands raised at the moment.
Right, thank you.
It's just to move the recommendation, Chair, on page 41.
Move the report be noted, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Effer and Councillor Wilson will second it. All in favour, can we have a show of hands, please, in the chamber?
Everybody in favour in the chamber.
Thank you very much, everybody there. And everybody online, can we have a show of hands, please?
That's unanimous again, Chair. Thank
Oh,
you.
wonderful. Thank you. Right, we'll now move to item 8, which is the Scrutiny Chair's report or update. Don't ask me where mine is. Rose, would you like to start?
Yes, I'll start, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bowler.
Right, this is Customer Service and Transformation Scrutiny Committee update. Since lockdown commenced, the committee have held one informal meeting via Zoom and have their first virtual committee meeting and a second informal meeting on the 3rd of August. Both of the reviews of the committee from 2019-20 are nearing completion, with the review of reletting of council properties at the final report stage. Further work is taking place on the review of New Bolsover due to the impact of COVID-19 on completion of works on site. Once the 2 reviews from 2019-20 have been signed off, committee will choose their new review topics. In the interim, the focus is on the impact of COVID-19 contingency plans for a second wave and the council's recovery plans. Post-scrutiny monitoring against 2 past reviews is in its final stages, with outstanding recommendations extended for delivery during 2020-21. The Operational Review of Standards Committee has 4 recommendations pending completion, and the Review of Delivery of Environmental Health and Licensing has 2 recommendations outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you for your report, Councillor Bowler. Can I now ask David Downs if he'd like to come in, please?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor David Downs, Shirebrook South, Health, Safe, Clean and Green Community Scrutiny. Since lockdown commenced, the committee have held one informal meeting via Zoom and have had their first virtual committee meeting on the 8th of September. Back in March, the committee completed our annual review of the Bolsover Community Safety Partnership. This is a statutory function, and the committee was the first time that the current members have undertaken this task. We heard from our own BDC officers tasked with delivery of the Bolsover Community Safety Plan, Derbyshire County Council Community Safety Officers, and the lead officer for modern slavery, who discussed the county-wide review of community safety provision. Derbyshire Police and the Deputy Police and Crimes Commissioner was also in attendance. Areas for improvement were noted as engagement of the probation service in its new form and engagement by Derbyshire CCG. It was also noted that the workload in relation to domestic violence is increasing in volume. Our review from 2019 to 20 in relation to children in care and care leavers is still progressing, but has been slightly affected by the pandemic. We're concentrating on completing the review while also focusing on the impact of COVID-19, contingency plans for a second wave and the council's recovery plans. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Councillor Downs. Could I ask Councillor Tom Kirkham if he'd like to come in now, please?
In what context?
For your report.
Jen, it's yourself.
Oh, it's myself. Right. Sorry, Tom. I've got your name down outside of this, so I don't quite know why I've missed it. Right. Growth scrutiny. The committee have now met twice under the new arrangements of the coronavirus regulations, with our next meeting planned for the 9th of September. One of these meetings involved the consideration of a calling of a delegated decision. The use of the calling process was not regularly used, and providing the useful training opportunity for both officers and members. The decision was in relation to a sale of a piece of council land in Glapwell, and due to the concerns with the decision-making process, we resolved that the decision should be put back for further review and consideration. We are currently awaiting the final outcome of this process. Our current review topic, examining current and future external funding, is now at final report stage. We have analysed our summary of evidence and agreed our outline recommendations. We are due to arrange an informal meeting of the committee to consider this report. Our mini review looking at the private rented sector will also begin to move forward as lockdown eases, taking account of the impact of COVID-19 on the sector and on the actions agreed under the new corporate ambitions. At our last meeting, we also looked in detail at plans for the new housing strategy and the new empty property strategy. We will be looking at the final drafts later in the year. We have also received an update from the development officers on the impact of COVID-19 contingency plans for the second wave and the council's recovery plans. This ends my report. Joanne?
There's a question from Councillor Clough, Chair.
Right. Would you like to come in, Councillor Clough, please?
It's not exactly a question, Jen, it's just an update that the piece of land mentioned in the report has now been identified as an asset of community value. That was noted at the parish council meeting last week. But have we any idea yet when we might hear from Mr. Galloway?
Chair, just for members' reference, these are updates from the committee. Questions like that really do need to go to the relevant scrutiny committee.
Thank you, Rose.
Right, thank you for that. And you've got your reply and you're happy with that to carry on. Is there anything else? Anybody else got any questions or anything? I'd like to thank Councillor for a report and move on next to myself, isn't it?
That's the end of the items for today, Chair.
That's finished it, has it, Joanne?
Yeah,
for this
so we just
part?
close the meeting if there are no other queries from members.
Right, has anybody got any queries or anything they wish to ask at this point?
There's nobody
No?
in the chamber, Chair.
Thank you. Donna, is anybody indicated?
No, Chair, there's no hands raised.
Right. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for attending these strange meetings, and we're all getting through, fortunately, in our area. And I'd like to wish you all the very best and all help everybody, all staff, not just staff we've got with us, all keep well and things keep improving. Thank you for attending, and I wish you all a good